Good morning. This is Bill from Curious Cars on what's sure to be another crappy, horrible Florida, I don't know, whatever the hell day it is. I can already tell. I mean, it was nice and crisp about an hour ago when I was driving this thing over here, but already it's become just a little bit muggy, just a little bit miserable, and I'm sure it absolutely forebodes what's going to come today and probably for the rest of the week and probably for the rest of the month and there on out for the summer and all the way until like next January. So the miserable weather, in my opinion, is back. We had a little bit of a cool front come through over the weekend. It was nice. It was a nice reprieve, but it was also a reminder that it was over, that it was just a last little hurrah for the chipper weather, and that crappy stuff was on the horizon. So that's one of the many things that has me absolutely miserable these days. Today I'm going to jump in a little bit and then we'll get out of it and then back in again. But today I've got a 1964 Buick Wildcat convertible. I'm very happy to have this car. This is a pretty cool piece, I have to say, and it's part of the I won't call it the Penelope collection, but it is part of the Penelope connection. We've been doing a little bit of work together, her and I, and tracking down some cars, and this was a car that we found at a pretty bizarre equipment auction up in Tampa. It's not something that I would have thought would be there. There was actually a collection of old Buicks, and we tried to get more of them, but this was the only one we ended up with. The lot right before this one in the auction was a bag of hammers, and I thought, being at an auction like that, it's probably going to go cheap. Well, of course it didn't. Nothing goes cheap anymore. That's just the new reality, and to my absolute horror, this thing cost an absolute fortune. But her and I, we didn't care. We just thought it was too cool. We bought it. We did a couple things to get it ready, and here it is. And it's going to be at the Premier Auction. It's a company called the Premier Auction Group. It's running out of Punta Gorda this weekend. I'm going to have this car in it. So please, look, don't call the Auto House guys. They don't even know this exists, I think. So they're just going to, be a bit dumbfounded when you call up and ask about it. It's only going to be at this auction. I'm running this and like 11 other cars through. I've absolutely had it. I'm trying to get back to zero. I'm just trying to start fresh. So I'm running a bunch of cars through there. I've set the reserves all at what I have in them. So, even I might take less. So, I mean, there might be some bargain. That's up for you. You decide that. But anyway, Premier Auction Group. I'll put a link to the website in the description of this video, and you can check it out. They have internet bidding, whatever. There's some neat cars there, and I'm going to have a shitload of them running through this thing, and hopefully I get rid of them all and can just start over and start fresh. That's the absolute plan. But look, before we get into this particular car, there's a couple of things that I want to go over, a couple of quick thoughts pertaining to why my mood is so shit these days. For one, do you remember when turn signals mattered? Do you remember when they were a thing? Because I do. I remember it very, very well. There was a time that people used turn signals to indicate their intentions instead of just wildly accelerating with hopes of getting ahead of you and then jerk merging in front of you to get on the interstate on-ramp, or, doing these bizarre maneuvers on the interstate, crossing 3 lanes of traffic in your Hyundai Elantra at 112 miles an hour. I swear to God, every time I drive these days, I feel like I am absolutely living in the third world. And I have been driving an absolute lot. The Penelope thing that I was talking about, where we're trying to track down alternative cars, I went up to Alabama, and there was a little bit of a barn find. I'll throw some pictures up of it. This guy passed away a few years ago, and his family has been hoarding the cars that he had ever since. There's 469 commitments Camaros and a 67 Corvette. And we're in the process of trying to buy them. You know, hopefully some of the photos are going up so you can see them. Pretty cool stuff. It'd be great if we get them, and I really hope that we do. I also flew with Penelope. This was friggin' terrifying. She has this little tiny plane. I think it's a Mooney of some kind. And I sat in the... Oh, for the love of God. I sat in the back of it to fly up to this place, I don't remember where the hell it was, mid-Florida somewhere, where there's a collection of 11 cars, some of them actually quite fancy, and I'll throw some pictures of those up, and that's another lot that we're trying to buy, so we'll see if we can have any fun with those. And then thirdly, on the way home from Alabama, I stopped by this incredibly bizarre little Sarasota auction that... Penelope had found, and it was one of the strangest things that I had ever seen in my life. I'll put some pictures of that up as well. You know, I mean, it was like there was this collection of salt and pepper shakers, and then right next to it a 440 Charger, and you know, then there was a collection of bed backboards, and next to that Superbird clone. So I mean, it was just absolutely strange. I spent 3 days preparing myself for it. I put all kinds of numbers together. I ran VIN numbers. I ran this, that, the other. Giant cheat sheets ready to go to this thing and do what I was going to do. Drive up to Sarasota in the morning, and the auction's been canceled with virtually no explanation. Just big note on the door, auction canceled. I mean, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I dicked around Sarasota for the day, pissed off, and just lamented that I had wasted 3 days of my life putting together numbers. I sent an email to the people, but of course no answer, so who the hell knows what's going to become of those cars. And anyway, you guys are probably all tired of hearing me bitch at this point, so I should probably just get into what the point of the video is, and that is this 1964 Buick Wildcat, which of course I am a very big fan of. You know, to me, this is one of the great names in Buick history, the Wildcat. It's a terrific name, absolutely great name, and as such, they only used it on production cars for just a few years because, you know, why use a great name when you have it? From 1963 only until 1970 could you get a production Wildcat. Through 2 generations. It was replaced by the Buick Centurion, which is a great name of it. You know, maybe it isn't. I mean, who the hell cares about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire? You know, I'm doing my anti-Soviet whiskey at the moment, and it's reminding me of the Soviet Empire of the past and making me feel a little bit nostalgic for the 80s, but what are you going to do? And anyway, I've got all kinds of phone calls beeping in, which is driving me absolutely apeshit. So I tell you what, let me pause for a minute, find out why the hell Dalton is calling me, and I'll get back to the flow of things in 2 minutes. Hold on one moment. All right, so that was a pretty typical Dalton emergency, you know, like you couldn't find a pen. You know, those are the kind of calls that I get that are absolutely drastic and have to be answered immediately. So hopefully he's found a pen. I think I've directed him to the right location for one. And he's right. I don't know why. He surely can't read or write, but... Anyway, okay, look, so the Buick Wildcat name was first used on a series of concept cars in the 1950s, and I think that makes sense because, again, I just feel like it's a pretty damn cool name. The first one was in 1953, but that was experimental. It didn't make much of an impact, and it went away pretty quickly. It was followed in 1954 by an all-new and sportier one-off thing called the Wildcat 2, which, you know, was again supposed to sort of present the prestige of Buick and differentiate it from the Cadillac lineup and some of the lower marks on the GM totem pole, while still, you know, calling attention to the brand. And it was a pretty neat piece. And then in 55, there was the 4-passenger Wildcat 3. So these were, you know, cars that were sort of designed to draw attention to the brand and to up the image of GM. It was used at those Motorama shows and, you know, other places where people would have seen it. all of that kind of came to naught. You know, they didn't end up producing these sort of crazy things. They did something that was a lot more normal. First off, they made the Wildcat an engine option on the Invicta. So when you pop the hood on one of those, you'd see a Wildcat engine. Then it became a submodel of the Invicta, its own, you know, height and model. It was the top of the line of the Invicta lineup. The Invicta being a pretty damn cool name, like Wildcat, and another one that disappeared. So I just don't know what Buick was thinking. I mean, they carry on a Sabre, but they don't bring on Invicta and Wildcat. I just don't entirely understand that. And then in '63, it became its own model. And what's interesting about that, it's on the B-body platform. It's full size. It's in between the Sabre and the Electra. You know, not quite one, not quite the other. And what's interesting about that is it sort of used the 50s model of having the same car with 3 different trim packages. This would go away very quickly and become something else as the 60s rolled on. But it used sort of that antiquated form, and despite that, it actually sold pretty well. It was truly Buick's first real muscle car. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but I think that it's inarguable that it put more focus on muscle than prior Buicks, and it kind of probably took the traditional Buick buyer by surprise. It wasn't something they were expecting, that they could get this top of the line, you know, powerful engine setup in something other than the Electra or the top of the line full-sized car. But despite that, and despite Wildcat being sort of a new name that people didn't know, it sold very well, and it was meant to compete, at least intramurally, with the Chevy Impala. You know, the Impala SS, that's one of the cars that has gone on to be a classic from that era, and the Pontiac Grand Prix. Those 2 cars were, you know, based on the same platform and considered to be pretty good competition for this. But the Buick held its own very well against them. And I think part of that was because it was just a damn good-looking car, as you can see at the moment. But look, we'll get into the car in a second. Let me very quickly do the events of 1964. Now, I did them recently when we did a Thunderbird video. So I'm not going to get in depth the way that I did in that. Very quickly, there was the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Whatever your thoughts are on that, if you have an opinion, it did sort of start the true official authorized version of the war in Vietnam. So that was kind of a very negative event for the United States, at least in the long term. It led to what else? The Boston Strangler was captured. He ended up getting killed in prison a few years later, but that kind of put an end to him in '64. He, you know, went into custody. The Warren Commission finally released its report and decided that Lee Harvey Oswald had acted alone when he shot JFK, and of course that spawned a bazillion different conspiracy theories. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed. There was Beatlemania, which is kind of ad nauseum to me, and Cassius Clay, before he was Muhammad Ali, beat Sonny Liston to get the World Heavyweight Championship. Movies I did not cover, so I'll give those a little bit more. You had Zulu, which I thought was an absolutely terrific movie. I've watched that like 30 times. It has a young Michael Caine in it. You had Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, which was, of course, kind of bizarre and one of those, you know, the Cold War movie genre. It had Peter Sellers and George C. Scott, a pretty good cast. And, of course, speaking of Peter Sellers, The Pink Panther came out that year, which was a fantastic movie. The Carpetbaggers, starring he was at that time, he was deceased, Alan Ladd. He died of, you know, drugs and alcohol. God bless him. I can fully understand. Mothra versus Godzilla came out. McHale's Navy came out with Ernest Borgnine. Mary Poppins was out. A Fistful of Dollars, Goldfinger, Zorba the Greek, and truly one of the best movies of the year, 2000 Maniacs, which was maybe the first in that genre of terrified northern people fantasizing about the horrors that would befall them if they ended up going down south. I mean, it really is one of my absolute favorite genres in movies. You can absolutely see the terror of these people and what they, I mean, they're not just going to get a nice breakfast of like grits and eggs. They're, going to be dismembered and put on a spit. So, and that's if Ned Beatty isn't, of course, given the business by one of them. But anyway, so that was that. You also had music, which was basically dominated by the Beatles. I mean, that was their year, Beatlemania. You had Hard Day's Night, the movie that came out. Everything was Beatles, Beatles, Beatles. And it all seemed just a bit too much. But there were also songs by Louis Armstrong. You had the Beach Boys. You had Roy Orbison doing his thing. You had Ray Charles and the Supremes coming out. Jan and Dean. There were also some car songs, which you really don't get anymore. I don't think snowflakes sing about cars. You had Ronnie and the Daytonas singing about GTO. Jan and Dean, of course, they were saying, what the hell was that song about? The Little Old Lady from Pasadena. There was some other group that came out with a song about Shelby Cobra. I can't remember what their name is now. And, of course, Louie Louie by the Kingsmen, which was great in that Animal House movie. So, all in all, it seems like 64 was a pretty damn good year for pop culture, and a lot of stuff came out that's still around today. But anyway, I'll give you one more, actually, and it doesn't really relate to 1964, but Prince owned a 1964 Buick Wildcat. Apparently it was one of his favorite cars, and actually appeared in some movie he did called Under the Cherry Moon, where he was driving it around. So it's pretty good taste from Prince, I have to say. I always saw him on that ridiculous looking purple motorcycle. I don't remember the Wildcat, but I may have to go look that up, because I think that's pretty cool that he had one. But anyway, so look, let's get into this one. Let's get into the exterior. So again, this is a 1964. It has some variations from 1963. They changed again in 1965. So this body style was pretty short-lived. And I think it's absolutely terrific looking. This one is finished in astral blue. Of course, it does have a white top, which I'll pause later to put up. And, by today's standards, it's stunningly adorned with chrome. But was truly a bit muted and sporty for a Buick in 1964. And that's part of what gave it, that sort of muscle car look. And I think this one does have it in absolute droves. You've got quad headlights up front. You've got a V grille with the tri-shield in the middle. You got sort of lovely chrome slats. I had this car detailed, and the poor guy, he had to go to the hospital to have his finger looked at after doing all the steel wool on the chrome. It was just endless for him. I think the front bumper and grille took him 2 days alone. So even though by the standards of 64 it was kind of muted, by today's standards it's just a chrome machine. It's absolutely insane. You have a variation of the Buick portholes on the side, and that's those little slats behind the wheel well right there that, the other Buicks all had portholes, ventiports they called them. This one didn't. It had those sort of stylized slats. And like the, the Sky Chief, the Pontiac Sky Chief, it had that, or maybe it was the Oldsmobile Starfire, it had that big strip of aluminum and chrome down the, a little up from the rocker panel that I think absolutely looks terrific. The mag wheels on this car also look fantastic. I think they really set it off. I do like the chrome surround of the windshield with the suicide wipers, the little vent there at the back. You got a little chrome trim around the tops of the door. You've got chrome trim around the windows. Like the top cover in the back in black, looks good. Also like the half-covered rear wheel wells where the top of the tire disappears. I think it has sort of a sinister look instead of a luxurious look in this car. You got the Wildcat script in the back with the crazy looking Wildcat badge there behind it. Of course, being pre-5 mile an hour bumpers, they're blending in a little bit nicer, and they have lovely chrome, and of course a lot of chrome around the tail lamps and going through into the middle with another Tri-Shield logo covering the keyhole. And and the Wildcat script on the hood. You also have sort of a hint of tail fins, you know, reminiscent of what was now becoming diminished from the 1950s. Interesting that they had the fuel door on the side, on the flank of the car. Look at this quarter panel. It's like 18 feet long. I mean, it is a full-sized car, but it's B-body. It's not their biggest one, and it's still friggin' enormous. But anyway, very attractive looking fuel door. You lift up, there you go. It's got, you know, chrome and trim all around it, and yeah, looks pretty good. So this one, you know, being a Buick, not quite Cadillac level, but certainly luxury level, so very easily it has two side mirrors, one on each side. This is the kind of stuff you didn't get on cars at this time. I mean, everything was, you know, even in this car, power steering was an option, power brakes were an option. You know, there was a lot of stuff that you had to check off a box to get, and quite a few cars from this era did not have passenger side view mirrors, so it's nice to see one on this. You can also see it as the power antenna. All right, let me get my keys and we're going to hop inside the trunk. We're not going to hop inside the trunk. We're going to open the trunk, see what we got. I think this Tri-Shoulder logo moves, which it does. Very nice. So stick our key in there and pop it open. There's also a glove box mounted trunk release, which is nice, and of course was probably an option at the time as well. Anyway, there you see an enormous trunk. I mean, the minute I open it up, I can feel reverb on my voice going. It's probably changed the tone of the camera. You see it's got a full-size spare, nice. Got a dip in the trunk, probably because they've moved the fuel tank forward. There's a car cover that it came with. This guy just had the jack, and it was all refinished, powder coated, yeah, kind of cool stuff, and then he died. It's very sad. And there you see the California tag that we pulled off the front. This is a California black plate car, which is apparently a fairly big deal. And you can see even the little trunk light is still working, and that was probably an option as well. So anyway, an enormous trunk. They didn't have to worry about where to stuff their infants or toddlers in the 60s. There was just no problem. You could have a whole preschool of toddlers shoved in the trunk of this thing. There'd be no problem with that at all. Just stack them up. You could fit 10 or 15 in there, and they'd be fine until you got to your next destination. So there it is. Pretty enormous trunk in this Wildcat. It's locked. Let's have a look under the hood. And of course, this was what made these, I love this center chrome strip in the hood. This is what made these muscle cars at the time. Oh God, everything's hard. There we go. Okay, so here it is. This is a 401 Nailhead V8. This was the base engine in this car. You could actually get a bigger one in this year, not the year before, but in this year you could. It says 445 Wildcat on the air cleaner, which is actually the torque rating, which is something Buick did, which I think is a bit strange. Instead of saying Wildcat 401 and have the cubic inches reading, it's got the 445. Yeah, whatever. I like the aluminum fin valve covers. I love the way the engine looks in this thing. It's very simple, very easy to look after, and all very proper. They did have some bigger engines available. You could get a, this one has 425 horse and 325 horse and 445 foot-pounds of torque. They did have a 425 option, which is the same engine that was in the Riviera, which gave you, I want to say 430 horse and 465 foot-pounds of torque, and that would give you an air cleaner that said Wildcat 465. And then finally they had a 360 horse dual quad setup. It had the same torque rating, 465, but of course a little bit more horsepower from the dual quads, and that was something called the Super Wildcat, and there weren't very many of those made, so if you see one, grab it. They're probably pretty friggin' valuable right now, but otherwise, you know, a big capable engine in a fine Buick automobile. It used coil springs in the front, very, very nice stuff. It had an X-frame, body-on-frame construction, which is what you'd expect from a car of this year. Hydraulic brakes. We're lucky enough that this one has power brakes because they suck without them. It uses coil springs up front, tubular shocks. It has an anti-roll bar in the back. Upper and lower control arms, coil springs. You know, it's pretty good handling piece, and part of what makes these cars pretty desirable today. So, now, I'm not sure which trans this has. I know the Dynaflow in 63. There was some debate about 64. A friend of mine said it should have the Turbohydra 400 in 64. But I'm not going to sign off on that because I didn't look at it hard enough. So, could go either way. But certainly by 65 it had the TH400. And I think this one does too. And believe it or not, you could also get a 3 or 4-speed manual gearbox in these things, which was part of their sporty lineage. And why people consider them to be muscle cars of the time, at least muscle cars for, you know, like dentists or something, maybe bank presidents. Definitely not the entry-level type muscle car that a lot of guys wanted. This one, of course, cost a bit more. Not a cheap car in its day, and you can see the way that that is today when you look at it. So, all right, there it is under the hood. I tell you what, I'm going to pause here. We're going to get into the interior. I'm going to get all my crap in the trunk, and then we're going to take this thing for a ride. So bear with me a moment. I tell you what I'm actually going to do is pause for a moment to get the soft top up. You know, it's that thing where secretly I've already done it and filmed it before, but I'm going to take this moment to inject it into the video so you can see the way this thing looks with the top up. And once we come back from that, then we'll get into the inside and go for a drive. So bear with me a moment. All right, here it is with the soft top up and in place. You can see it's white, which I think is a nice striking contrast for the car. It's not going to be naturally white because of the black interior, but I think it actually works on the car, and it's probably the color that it came with. You know, looks terrific all around. What can you say? I'm sure it's a replacement top. I doubt this is the original one from 1964, but yeah, you never know. It does appear to be in pretty damn good shape. So let's try and give that a run and see what it takes to get that back. I'm going to fire up the car to do that. Sometimes it's better to have the alternator working. Looks like we have to undo these guys here. How do we do that? That way. Alright, over here. Same thing. Very nice. And I think our top mechanism is here. Yep, that's it. Alright, let me get it so you can see it going back. And, you know, very much just the standard Detroit way of running a soft top back. Hydraulic cylinders moving it back and into place. Manual release at the front, and a soft top cover that goes up over it. I can then run the windows down. There's the back one. The other back one. And that front one. Get those back up. Buick is a beauty too. Love it. And let's see how it looks with the top down. Of course, we have to get the cover over it, but you know, there it is. And that is a very striking car, I believe, as a convertible. So I'm going to pause it there and pick it back up again in a minute. All right, so I came over to relieve myself in Peter's bushes and instantly walked into this friggin' thing. Look at this horrible, terrifying spider. Yeah, there. Look at the horns on this thing. I mean, it has to be absolutely dripping with poison. Through sheer luck, this isn't crawling down my neck as we speak. And who knows what it would do to me if it were. And you can see how sinister it is. I've got this thing behind it because it's the only way to focus in on it. But there it is. So this is the kind of peril that awaits you in the Florida bushes when you're just going in to sort of relieve yourself. And hopefully I can, you know, say that I've avoided it, and maybe it didn't sting me when I wasn't looking, and I'll lose a leg later on. But either way, there it is. So anyway, back to the video. All right, let's have a look in this thing. Now, look, if I seem a bit wonky and weird, it's that I haven't really slept in a few days. I certainly didn't sleep at all. I don't even think for a minute. I've got all this crap going on, all of these projects, all of these problems, trying to get them sorted out, and none of them are getting solved or coming to fruition, and it's just incredibly irritating. It's the stress that I was talking about the other day, the one that blows your heart apart, and that's what I've got. And look, I know we've all suffered for the last couple of years. Everything's gone to absolute shit. You know, on my trip up to Alabama recently, I was paying like $6, like $5.58 a gallon for diesel, which is absolutely insane. And none of it is making anyone feel very chipper at all. So anyway, let's see what we got inside. Now, when I first opened the door of this car, I thought, oh my God, that had to be a very special option with the bucket seats and the center console and the tack up there at the front of the center console. But in fact, this is the standard setup for the Wildcat at the time. You could check off a box that got you a bench seat, and it did away with the center console and the tack, or at least put it up on the dash. But this was the way they came, and I think that was part of Buick's focus on this being a muscle car. As much as it was a upper scale luxury car at the time. In the back, your Canadians are going to be pretty damn chipper. You got room for 3 of them, but 2 properly. So if you're on your way to a Dean Martin concert at the time, you're going to be fairly happy back there. You've got ashtrays on either side. Nice. You got your power window switch. You've got lovely sort of slats in the vinyl. Very pretty styled seats and lots of little chrome strips everywhere. I like the way the interior lights have kind of an Art Deco look. Very, very attractive. And again, I just think these are very underrated cars. They're absolutely stunning inside. In a way, a lot of GM cars in the period were not. And a big part of that is Buick's, you know, upscale thing. You can see it even has power seats, which is a pretty good option at the time, and power windows, which work great. The door panel, absolutely lovely. You've got this nice sort of armrest with the chrome supports. You got a nice chrome door pull. You got your Buick Wildcat logo there. This will run your little smoker's window, and you know, it's all festooned with chrome. It's just pretty. You know, big aluminum strips. It just is a terrific looking car, and they certainly didn't skimp on the adornments. Your sill plate there with the body by Fisher, the lovely chrome hinges on the front seats. I just think it looks great. It had one of these cheesy 70s steering wheel covers. I've been pulling it back to look because I thought it must have cracked steering wheel underneath, but it doesn't seem to. I can't, you know, I've gone almost all the way around it a bunch of times, and I can't find any flaws in it, but I'm still terrified to take it out. It does have a horn that works good, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave it on. Maybe the guy liked it. Maybe there is a crack somewhere, but I sure can't find one. You got 2 big gauges looking at you with shitloads of chrome. They could be taillights or headlights with the amount of chrome they have. You've got idiot gauges on the right, your amp, your oil, your temp, your fuel. You've got 120 mile an hour speedo there. We've got 62,000 miles on the clock, which is believed to be original. You can set your speed setting here with this needle, and I'll be honest with you, I have absolutely no idea why. Maybe it gives you a speed warning. We're going to try it. I'm going to put it down low, so if we pass it, we'll see if it warns us. Won't let you set it any lower than 50. Down here you've got your lights, you've got your wipers, you've got your left vent, so that you know, get some of that flow going through. You got your right vent here, that makes sense. Your ignition switch. You've got a Buick Sonomatic AM radio in the dashboard there, and then this pretty cool little row of switches, of course, which runs the courtesy lights or the antenna or, you know, the accessories. Down here is one of the coolest tacks that I've seen. You can, you know, use this little needle to set it to whatever red line you want it to have, but of course the true red line on the car is about 5,000. You got a oh geez, I'm losing the keys. Neat little spot here to put stuff with a removable panel and nothing underneath it. I've absolutely, I mean, I guess this is what you used in the 60s for your narcotics. They were bigger at the time, like everything else. You got this interesting looking shifter, like that it's a center shift, and then you have another little compartment here at the back, which would be a nice place to store your handguns. Over here in the dash, you do have a courtesy light that still works, and here's your trunk release, and the glove box light works, and there's a neat little place to put your books and other crap down there. And what do we have here? A set of books. That's all cool. Here's your Wildcat Electra book, 64. Neat that it all still has this stuff. Let's see what's in it. I actually haven't seen this before, so we're seeing it for the first time together. Hopefully I don't screw it up trying to do it one-handed. Alright, so here it is, the convertible operation and care of folding power top. That's all very nice. Top boot, cleaning the top, that sort of thing. Your LeSabre owner's manual, Wildcat Electra 225. That was for bankers with a little more style. And here's your maintenance and service recommendations. Yeah, all very nice stuff, and nice to see that all still with the car. So I stuff that back in the glove box and see where we're at. Let's fire this thing up and go for a spin. That thing does fire right to life, man. It runs good. I think Penelope put avgas in here to clean out the fuel system a little bit, because we weren't sure the last time it had gone down the road. So all very nice stuff. Do we have an antenna that works? Yeah, look at that. The power antenna still works. That's absolutely fantastic. Let's see if we can get some music out of this. I don't think there's anything on AM these days. I'm not hearing anything, so maybe the AM stereo doesn't work. Down here you've got a lighter, you've got an ashtray. There it is. Of course, it's the 60s, so it's big, and you know, you're able to smoke a ton of cigarettes before you have to empty it. So, all right, let's go for a drive. I love the chrome surround on the center view mirror and the chrome stalk. Absolutely beautiful. Ditto these sun visor. Look how cool that looks. I mean, it really, what a beautiful time for GM. And this has the original GM accessory mirror that says nice things to your wife as well. Buick is a beauty too. So, yeah, it was a different world. That would probably be sexist now to have that on a car. Late for Peter's interminable gate. We're kind of lucky today to have clouds, so I did not have Dalton clean this one up. We had someone else do it, so the windshield's actually probably pretty good in this car, and it's a shame that we don't have more sun so I can show it off and I could show Dalton what a clean windshield looks like. And man, are we low on fuel, so that's going to be one of my first stops. Peter's nicely watering the driveway. God, what a cruiser. Well, we got warning buzzers. Well, that must be the low fuel. It's telling us it's time to stop, which it definitely is. So I tell you what, I'm going to put fuel in this car, and then we're going to pick it up after that, so you don't have to listen to a stupid warning buzzer. All right, heading out at the gas station. It turns out that that was not a stupid gas warning at all. It was the speed warning that I myself set up with this thing. So if I put it back down here to 50, watch this. Yeah, there it goes. So it's warning me that I'm getting close to my undesired speed. That seems a bit odd to me for America in 1964, when gas was 8 cents a gallon and everybody was driving high torque vehicles as fast as they could, but yeah, whatever. So anyway, there it is. There's the speed warning work. You know, try not to run into this thing. Unfortunately, no interstate today, because I'm taking this back to Penelope's shop, which is a different route altogether. But I can tell you, man, what a fun car to cruise down the road. I mean, it's big, it's got pep, you can feel that early Rochester Quadrajet kick in, the secondary's coming. The guy who owned it put on a proper exhaust, so it's not too loud. Some people might want to rectify that, but I wouldn't. I think it's just got exactly the right feel to it. And it's just a lovely cruiser, man. What a true and great classic car, and an awful lot of fun to drive around. So again, this one not at Auto House. It's going to be at that Premier auction. There's going to be a link to that in the description if you have any interest. I think they have online bidding with proxy bid, so you don't have to be local. And if you get this one, I'll tell you, you're getting a hell of a nice car. This thing is a really, really special piece. And I promise you, Penelope isn't going to care at all if it doesn't sell. She'd be very happy to put this one in the collection. And I don't blame her. I think it's just that cool. I really do. This is one that's fun to own. So anyway, there it is. I appreciate you having a look today. This is a 1964 Buick Wildcat convertible. And I'll try to have some more fun stuff coming up. I know we haven't done a video in a while before this one, so I'm working on it. I promise I'll get some more coming. Thank you for everything, and take care. We'll see you with the next one.